Going to take a psychedelic journey? Then this video is going to support you in creating a safe and comfortable space so that you can dive deep. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name's Fola, and here on Deep Mind Square, we talk all things bridging mental wellness and spirituality for nurses. In today's video, I wanted to share a bit about what are some ways that you can support yourself with creating that safe, comfortable space, the set and setting, so that you can dive into a wonderful psychedelic or plant medicine journey. Before we get into all that, I invite you to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you're updated on future videos, and check out some of the other things I share from a harm reduction standpoint to support nurses who are ultimately turning to wanting to heal themselves more and more. So remember, it is okay to want to explore a lot of these worlds. I know that there's this like top-down sort of complex within our regulatory bodies that seem to want to control what's happening and how we live our life. But as the feminine, as caregivers, walking, I think nurses really are meant to support themselves in whichever way they feel called, as long as it's not interfering with your work. So if you feel like maybe you're kind of going in this place where it's a bit too much and it's overwhelming and you are not able to function at your work or in your daily life, then maybe it's worth talking to a mental health or addictions professional. Otherwise, I think the majority of people are turning to psychedelics, to plants to support themselves. So how do we go about doing it in a way that helps us to feel safe and to really relax and surrender into the journey? I feel like for myself, I've learned a lot over the years about when and where and how to go about exploring altered states. For myself, being someone who has some past trauma and experiences, being able to open up in certain groups or experience like different places can be a bit of a challenge. So I've had to really learn to set my boundary and know when it's okay and when it's not. And this sometimes might be seen as rude and not very social, but it's like, hey, if I know that by indulging in this plant when I'm with a group of people, especially people that I don't know, is going to create a bit more of this like intensity or paranoia and distrust, then I'm going to just say no. And sometimes I've been the odd man out, the odd woman out, and it just is what it is. So be willing to say no, set your boundaries, and know what's right for you. But when we're talking about set and setting, you know, that wonderful saying, I think it was Timothy Leary who started to kind of coin those terms. We're talking about our inner environment and our outer environment. So, you know, we can prepare the outer environment, which is super important, but I think really it's the inner environment that really matters. So let's talk about this external environment. What does the setting look like? So with the setting, we're talking about the physical or social environment. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are there like men and women? Are there a mix of different cultures? Are people joining together in like a ceremony with a very set like ritual or intentional way of going about the medicine? Or is it at a party, you know, and you don't know the folks there, and maybe there's like a mixture of some pretty uncertain activities and things happening that don't really add to the safety. These are all really important things to be mindful of, because again, in order for us to dive deeper into these altered states, we need to feel safe and we need to feel comfortable. So we could talk about, you know, finding yourself a safe space of like getting your couch ready and maybe some nice warm blankets or a weighted blanket or pillows and like, you know, your little pet or an animal or stuffy, you know, there's all these different things that you can do to add to your environment that will support you when you go through. I really like to think about this from the sense of if I'm like in this playful kind of kid mode, what are things that I might want? I might want like a bolster and a yoga mat, you know, and lots of pillows. Keep saying pillows. Like just something to really be soft and cuddly. Even a bed, right? Because sometimes the thing you want is just to crawl into bed. I know for me, one thing that I enjoy and I kind of feel like I need is to have some type of warm water, like a bath or a shower. I don't know why. I mean, my Scorpio nature probably is this like part merging out, but I just love being in the water when I'm doing a journey. being mindful, you're not like putting yourself in like a pool or submerging yourself and being out of it, because no one wants to drown, okay? And then what types of foods or snacks and things that you need to maybe nourish your body. You know, you want to make sure that things are kind of prepared for you, organized, so that you don't have to worry about going and seeking those things out if you are in the midst of this sort of altered state. Unless you have some support, like a guide or someone with you, someone sitting to hold that space and to maybe gather those items for you. Then we can talk about really filling the space with like the good vibes. For me, it's like playing the right music. So curating a playlist, finding them. There's so many on Spotify, on YouTube. You could just look that up. I know there's different organizations that have created music around this too. I think like Johns Hopkins University has a playlist, which is okay, a little intense sometimes. And yeah, definitely worth exploring what you feel called to. And know that sometimes you might prepare music, because I know I've been there, where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to go into this journey and I'm going to listen to, for instance, I remember once wanting to listen to the Mars Volta, which is like one of my favorite bands. And during this journey, finally I was in a place where I could listen, put it in, and I was like grossed out. I had no idea what was coming into my eardrums. But I was like, have I been listening to this shit for like how many years? Like what? And I realized, no, I still like the Mars Volta, Cedric, all those lovely people. Still so much. Just maybe not during a journey. But listening and finding the music, finding those vibes that'll add to your journey can really be quite helpful. And this adds to like other items in the room. For me, I am very like intentional and want to be conscious about my space. So having incense, having plants, and all the elements like water, that all combines into this beautiful sort of alchemy of really supporting any transformations or carrying out my intention towards that space that I'm hoping to like heal or to bring about. And this can be to adding maybe, if it's safe, like fire or a flame, candles. Again, not saying to go and like take something and then be so out of it that you have like an open flame somewhere. Like, be mindful. But that's why it's important, I think, to have someone sitting. And that I guess we could add in there too, is having a guide, especially if you are new to the process of psychedelic work or plant medicine work. It's really important because it helps you to know that you are supported and safe in that place. Because when we're taking psychedelics or any plant medicine or entering altered states, like even through meditation, it is easy to start to really detach from the physical reality. But there's something powerful about the flame and about fire, you know, when we talk about it from this sort of spiritual lens, that those elements can engage and really support in clearing or purifying our environment. And this is why in many different cultures around the world, they would have, you know, these gatherings of people around a fire. There's just something very magical. And the fire actually also impacts our brain waves and puts us into a meditative and altered state. So there's some power there. Maybe just being mindful of the lights and how the lighting is in your space. Do you have fresh air? Do you have access to like get outside, maybe into a backyard or somewhere where you can ground down? Love being out in nature, which can be really supportive, but also acknowledging that being out in nature might not always be the best thing. I know for myself, I've had some pretty intense experiences, even just with microdosing different plant, and like the intensity when I'm out in nature, especially around the mountains, is like, it's too much for me. It's just, I get overwhelmed because of that like intensity of just feeling all of her and her presence. So that's just my experience. Also being mindful of like where and how like you're going about doing these things. You know, oftentimes, like I remember going to Shambhala Music Festival and being in this like huge crowd, you know, like that's not my ideal place to experience an altered state like that, depending on the plant or the psychedelic. I really do feel it's important to be in a place where I feel a bit more controlled, because there are people coming and going and you just don't know who and what type of energy is coming in. So protect yourself that way. You could go even deeper into the occulty, esoteric aspects of magic and do rituals like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, creating a magic circle. You know, we build medicine wheels and shamanism, like all this fun stuff. Fun. to support you in bringing in the right energies that will hold that space for you. So this is some of the work that I do. I love including that like magic aspect into the plant world. So enough about the setting. Let's talk about the set. So the internal mind, what is going on within? This again, I think is actually more important because we know that psychedelics or plant medicines are going to amplify or magnify the things that are going on inside of us. So if we enter into a space with a lot of anxiety and worry and paranoia, then it's most likely going to really amplify that. So it's important that we ground down, we center. This doesn't mean that like if you are feeling anxious to not journey into these altered states, but rather just to acknowledge it, name it. And this is why I think a group sort of approach to the medicine can be very helpful, because it allows us to sit with each other, acknowledge that, okay, I'm kind of worried that this thing might happen, or that this like maybe theme or concern in my life might come up. And we can talk about it and make it known with each other. And if you aren't in a group, you can do this with yourself, maybe through journaling, and just name it. Because when we name it, we take away the power from it, and we get the power for ourselves. So acknowledging what type of thoughts you're having, what type of emotions. I hear it time and time again, people stepping into like psychedelic spaces because, you know, they're like feeling really down or depressed and they just want to like get rid of it. Or they're like, oh, I just wanted to feel better, so I took this thing. And it oftentimes makes that more intense, that feeling or that emotion. So it's not that that's necessarily a bad thing. Again, those pieces, they come up for a reason. But it is like, in a way, how can we support and be more compassionate with ourselves while we go into these journeys? And I think part of this set as well is stepping into our womb space, or that center of gravity just below the belly button. So men, you have this as well. Just really connecting and like dropping down into our body versus being up in our head. And this is, I think, what the rituals or the kind of conscious use with creating a sacred space can support us, because it's like we build the container externally. Yeah, we build the container external to ourselves, and then it allows also this transformation on the within. And that we can then start to vibrate, like this resonance happens, right? So it's gonna maybe bring things up. This is part of the journey, any healing journey. It doesn't have to be painful. I think the pain comes from when we're clinging and holding on. But just know that with the proper supports and you intentionally creating these spaces within and without, you are going to receive the benefits that are waiting for you. So I'm curious to hear in the comment section below, what are some ways that you create your set and setting? Feel free to share with each other. And if you would like, feel free to like and share this video as well with anyone you think might be interested. And I just thank you for taking the time to watch, and I'll catch you all in another video. Take care.